Portugal is where Europe runs out of land, and instead of being the forgotten edge, it became the launching point for the explorers who mapped the world. The country where the azulejo tiles cover everything from the palaces to the metro stations, and the place where you can surf the Atlantic waves in the morning and sip port wine by the Douro River by afternoon. This isn't the Spain everyone visits or the France everyone knows. This is the country where the pastel de nata was perfected in the monastery, where the medieval villages sit perched on the granite boulders, where the Atlantic islands offer the whale watching and the volcanic landscapes, and where the coastline stretches 1,794 kilometers, creating the beaches, the cliffs, and the fishing villages that define the age of discovery. We're talking about the nation that gave the world the navigation techniques, the fado music echoing through the Alfama alleys, and the cork forests producing half the world's supply. Subscribe to Travelist Guide as we explore 20 Portuguese destinations that prove this Atlantic nation deserves more than the weekend stopover. Lisbon on the Tagus River is the Portuguese capital where the 7 hills, the yellow trams, and the 300 sunshine days create the affordable European capital. The city spreads across the hills with the historic tram 28 climbing through the Alfama, the Baixa, and the Graça neighborhoods. The Belém Tower and the Hieronymus Monastery are the UNESCO monuments from the Age of Discovery when Lisbon was the wealthiest city in Europe. The Alfama district has the narrow alleys where the fado music echoes from the restaurants and the bars. The azulejo tiles, the painted ceramics, decorate the buildings, the metro stations, and the churches. The pastel de nata, custard tart, was created at the Pastel de Belém bakery in 1837. The miradouros, viewpoints, across the hills provide the panoramic vistas. The cost of living is far below the Western European capitals. Visit from March to May or September to November for the mild weather. Have you ridden tram 28 through the Alfama alleys where the fado music and the azulejo tiles define the capital? Porto on the Douro River is the port wine city where the Ribeira waterfront, the 6 bridges, and the azulejo churches create the northern cultural capital. The city climbs the steep hills with the colorful houses and the laundry hanging from the balconies overlooking the river. The Ribeira district is the UNESCO World Heritage Site with the medieval buildings and the waterfront restaurants. The Dom Luís, the first bridge designed by Gustave Eiffel's student, spans the river with the 2 levels for the metro and the pedestrians. The port wine cellars in Vila Nova de Gaia across the river offer the tastings and the tours explaining the production. The Livraria Lello bookstore from 1906 inspired J.K. Rowling with the red staircase and the stained glass. The Francesinha, the Portuguese sandwich with the meat, the cheese, and the beer sauce, is the local specialty. Visit from April to June or September to October for the mild weather. Have you crossed the 2-level bridge to the port wine cellars in the city where the colorful houses climb the hills? Sintra in the hills, 30 kilometers from Lisbon, is the UNESCO town where the romantic palaces, the Moorish castle, and the mystical atmosphere create the fairy tale destination. The Pena Palace sits atop the hill with the bright yellow and red walls creating the most photographed Portuguese castle. The palace combines the Gothic, the Moorish, the Renaissance, and the Manueline styles. The Quinta da Regaleira has the initiation wells descending 27 meters with the spiral staircases and the underground tunnels. The Moorish castle from the 8th century offers the views across the Atlantic and the Lisbon. The town center has the Sintra National Palace with the distinctive twin chimneys. The lush vegetation and the frequent mist create the romantic atmosphere beloved by the 19th century writers, including Lord Byron. Pão de pastéis de Sintra, the local pastries, and the travesseiros are the sweet specialties. Visit from April to June or September to October, avoiding the summer crowds. Have you descended the 27-meter initiation well in the town where the romantic palaces sit in the mist-covered hills? Algarve coast in southern Portugal is the 200-kilometer shoreline, where the limestone cliffs, the golden beaches, and the 300 sunshine days create the beach destination. The coast stretches from the Spanish border to Cape St. Vincent, the southwestern corner of Europe. The dramatic limestone cliffs and the rock formations, including the Ponta da Piedade, create the iconic scenery. The beaches range from the sheltered coves to the wide Atlantic strands. The water is cooler than the Mediterranean, but the weather is consistently sunny. The towns including Lagos, Albufeira, and Tavira offer the different atmospheres from the party resorts to the historic fishing villages. The golf courses attract the northern European tourists, escaping the winter. The fresh seafood, including the caraplana, seafood stew, is the regional specialty. The cost of living is lower than the Spanish costas. Visit from May to September for the beach weather or from October to April for the mild off-season. Have you explored the 200-kilometer coast where the limestone cliffs and the 300 sunshine days create the Atlantic beach paradise? Lagos on the Algarve is the coastal town where the Golden Cliffs, the historic center, and the Atlantic beaches create the popular destination. The town was the departure point for the Portuguese explorers during the Age of Discovery, including Henry the Navigator. The Ponta da Piedade features the dramatic golden limestone cliffs, the arches, and the grottos accessible by the boat tours or the kayaking. The historic center has the cobblestone streets and the 18th century walls surrounding the old town. The beaches include the Praia Dona Ana, considered one of Portugal's most beautiful, and the longer Meia Praia stretching 4 kilometers. The nightlife scene attracts the younger travelers during the summer. The marina and the waterfront have the restaurant serving the fresh fish and the grilled seafood. The town balances the history with the modern beach resort facilities. Visit from May to September for the beach season. Have you kayaked through the golden limestone arches and the grottos at the departure point for the Portuguese explorers? Faro is the Algarve capital where the airport gateway, the Old Town, and the Ria Formosa Lagoon create the overlooked destination. The city is the main arrival point for the Algarve visitors, though most bypass it for the coastal resorts. The Old Town, Cidade Velha, sits within the medieval walls with the cathedral, the cobblestone streets, and the orange trees. The Ria Formosa Natural Park protects the 18,000-hectare lagoon system with the barrier islands, the salt marshes, and the diverse bird life. The boat tours explore the lagoon islands, including the Ilha Deserta, the deserted island with the pristine beaches. The Capela dos Ossos, Chapel of Bones, has the walls decorated with the human bones from the 19th century monks. The university students create the lively atmosphere during the academic year. The city is less touristy than Lagos or Albufeira, maintaining the authentic Portuguese character. Visit from April to October for the lagoon tours and the beach access. Have you explored the Bone Chapel and the 18,000-hectare lagoon at the Algarve Gateway most tourists skip? Coimbra on the Mondego River is the university city where the 13th century university, the student traditions, and the academic atmosphere create the intellectual center. The University of Coimbra, founded in 1290, is one of Europe's oldest universities, with the Joannina Library containing 200,000 books in the Baroque splendor. The students wear the traditional black capes, inspiring J.K. Rowling's Hogwarts robes. The academic traditions include the Queima das Fitas, the burning of the ribbons, celebration in May. The Old Town climbs the hill with the narrow streets and the staircases. The Mondego River provides the scenic setting with the riverside parks. The Fado de Coimbra, sung by the male students, differs from the Lisbon Fado. The Roman aqueduct and the medieval monastery add to the historical layers. The city is less touristy than Lisbon or Porto, maintaining the authentic academic atmosphere. Visit from April to June or September to October for the academic atmosphere and the pleasant weather. Have you walked the 13th century university where the Black Cape students inspired the Hogwarts robes and the Fado echoes? Évora in the Alentejo region is the UNESCO city where the Roman temple, the Bone Chapel, and the medieval walls create the preserved historic center. The city was the Roman Évora before becoming the medieval Portuguese capital during periods. The Temple of Diana from the 1st century is one of Iberia's best preserved Roman structures with the 14 Corinthian columns. The Chapel of Bones has the walls covered with the 5,000 human bones and the skulls with the inscription, "We bones here are waiting for yours." The cathedral is Portugal's largest with the Romanesque and Gothic features. The medieval walls encircle the historic center, preserving the layout. The city is the Alentejo capital, known for the cork production and the wine. The white painted houses and the narrow streets create the typical Alentejo atmosphere. The heat in the summer is intense. Visit from March to May or September to November for the comfortable temperatures. Have you walked the Roman Temple and the Bone Chapel where 5,000 skeletons decorate the walls in the medieval Alentejo capital? Douro Valley is the wine region where the terraced vineyards, the river cruises, and the port wine quintas create the UNESCO landscape. The valley follows the Douro River from Porto inland toward the Spanish border with the steep hillsides carved into the terraces. The vineyards produce the grapes for the port wine and the table wines. The quintas, wine estates, offer the tastings, the tours, and the luxury accommodations. The river cruises from Porto explore the valley passing through the locks and the scenic landscapes. The Pinhao village is the valley's heart with the azulejo decorated train station. The train journey from Porto to Pochino follows the river, creating one of Europe's most scenic rail routes. The harvest season in September and October sees the traditional grape stomping. In the valley balances the wine tourism with the working agricultural landscape. Visit from April to June or September to October for the mild weather and the harvest season. Have you cruised the terraced vineyards where the port wine grapes grow on the UNESCO hillsides along the Douro River? Braga in the north is the religious center where the Baroque churches, the Bom Jesus Sanctuary, and the Roman heritage create the spiritual capital. The city is Portugal's oldest continuously inhabited settlement, dating to the Roman Bracara Augusta. The Bom Jesus do Monte Sanctuary sits atop the hill, accessible by the 116-meter Baroque staircase with the 581 steps, or the funicular from 1882. The sanctuary and the staircase are the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The cathedral from the 1070s is Portugal's oldest surviving cathedral with the multiple architectural styles. The city has over 30 churches, earning the nickname Portuguese Rome. The historic center has the narrow streets and the plazas. The university students create the lively atmosphere. The city serves as the base for the Peneda Gerês National Park. The costs are lower than Lisbon or Porto. Visit from April to June or September to October for the mild weather. Have you climbed the 581-step Baroque staircase to the Hilltop Sanctuary in the religious capital with over 30 churches? If you're captivated by Portugal's diversity from the Lisbon tiles to the Douro terraces, smash that subscribe button on Travelist Guide, because we're halfway through and the medieval villages are still coming. Like, comment, and share if Portugal is calling you beyond the tourist trail. Guimarães is the birthplace of Portugal, where the medieval castle, the UNESCO Old Town, and the national identity create the historic center. The city is where Afonso Henriques, Portugal's first king, was born in 1109, establishing the Portuguese nation. The motto, Aqui nasceu Portugal, here Portugal was born, appears across the city. The 10th century castle where Afonso was born overlooks the city. The Palace of the Dukes of Braganza from the 15th century is the massive Gothic palace. The Old Town is the UNESCO World Heritage Site with the medieval buildings, the narrow streets, and the granite-paved plazas. The historic center is pedestrian-friendly, maintaining the authentic atmosphere. The city has the modern cultural facilities, including the Contemporary Art Museum. The costs are reasonable compared to the major cities. Then visit from April to June or September to October for the comfortable walking weather. Have you walked the medieval birthplace where Portugal began as a nation and the first king was born in the 10th century castle? Aveiro on the coast is the canal city where the Moliciro boats, the Art Nouveau buildings, and the Ria Lagoon create the Portuguese Venice. The city sits on the Ria de Aveiro Lagoon with the canals running through the center. The Moliciro boats, traditional vessels once used for the seaweed harvesting, now offer the canal tours. The Art Nouveau buildings from the early 20th century line the central canal with the colorful tiles and the ornate facades. The Costa Nova beach nearby has the striped wooden houses in the bright colors, creating the photogenic seaside. The ovos moles, soft eggs, are the local sweet specialty made from the egg yolks and the sugar originally created in the convents. The salt pans surrounding the city still produce the traditional sea salt. The university creates the student atmosphere. And the city is less touristy than Porto or Lisbon. Visit from May to September for the boat tours and the beach access. Have you ridden the seaweed harvesting boats through the canals lined with the Art Nouveau tiles in the Portuguese Venice? Nazaré on the Silver Coast is the fishing village where the giant waves, the traditional fisherwomen, and the pilgrimage sanctuary create the authentic coastal town. The town is famous worldwide for the big wave surfing at Praia do Norte, where the waves can exceed 100 feet due to the Nazaré Canyon, the underwater canyon funneling the swells. The record wave of 101.4 feet was surfed by Garrett McNamara in 2013. The traditional fisherwomen still wear the 7 skirts and the headscarves. The sitio neighborhood atop the cliff, accessed by the funicular, has the Nossa Senhora da Nazaré sanctuary and the views over the town and the Atlantic. The beach is popular with the Portuguese families during the summer. The dried fish hangs on the racks along the promenade. The town maintains the working fishing port atmosphere. Then visit from October to March for the giant wave season, or from June to September for the beach weather. Have you watched the 100-foot waves break at the fishing village where the traditional women wear the 7 skirts? Óbidos is the walled medieval town where the whitewashed houses, the castle, and the Ginja cherry liqueur create the perfectly preserved village. The town sits within the 12th century walls with the narrow cobblestone streets and the flower-filled balconies. The castle at the highest point is now the Pousada, the luxury historic hotel. The walls are walkable, offering the views across the red-tiled rooftops and the surrounding countryside. The town is small enough to explore in 2 to 3 hours. The ginja, the sour cherry liqueur, served in the chocolate cups, is the local specialty sold throughout the town. The town hosts the medieval fair in July and the Christmas market, creating the festive atmosphere. The literary festival in May attracts the Portuguese and the international authors. In the town is 85 kilometers from Lisbon, making it the easy day trip. Visit year-round, with the spring offering the blooming flowers and the fewer crowds. Have you walked the medieval walls overlooking the whitewashed town where the cherry liqueur comes in the chocolate cups? Cascais on the coast, 30 kilometers from Lisbon, is the former fishing village where the beaches, the royal history, and the cosmopolitan atmosphere create the upscale resort. The town was the summer residence of the Portuguese royal family, transforming it from the fishing village to the elegant resort. The beaches, including Praia da Rainha, the Queen's Beach, and Praia do Guincho, attract the swimmers and the surfers. The historic center maintains the charm with the pedestrian streets and the seafood restaurants. The Boca do Inferno, the mouth of hell, is the chasm where the Atlantic crashes into the cliffs. The marina has the yachts and the waterfront dining. The town attracts the Lisbon residents escaping the city on the weekends. The train from Lisbon follows the coast, taking 40 minutes. Yet the costs are higher than the interior, but lower than the similar resorts elsewhere in Europe. Visit from May to September for the beach season. Have you surfed the Atlantic swells at the Royal Summer Resort, where the beaches and the cosmopolitan atmosphere thrive? So there you have it, 20 destinations across Portugal that prove this Atlantic nation deserves far more than the weekend Lisbon stopover. Revealing the country where the explorers launched the Age of Discovery, where the azulejo tiles turn the metro stations into the art galleries, where the medieval villages built into the granite boulders maintain the authenticity, and where the Atlantic islands offer the whale watching and the volcanic landscapes 1,500 kilometers from the mainland. From the Lisbon trams climbing the 7 hills to the Porto, wine cellars aging the vintage ports, from the Sintra palaces shrouded in the mist to the Algarve cliffs glowing gold in the sunset, from the Douro terraces to the Madeira levadas, Portugal packs the incredible diversity into the relatively small territory. The costs remain affordable compared to the Western Europe. The 300 sunshine days in the Algarve guarantee the weather. And the Portuguese remain genuinely welcoming despite the tourism growth. The pastel de nata is perfect. The fado music is haunting, and the seafood is fresh. If Portugal's unseen destinations captivated you, smash that subscribe button on Travelist Guide for more countries beyond the tourist trail. Drop a comment telling me which Portuguese destination you're visiting first. Are you team historic cities like Lisbon, Porto, and Évora? Team natural wonders like the Douro Valley, the Azores, and the Algarve coast? Or team medieval villages like Óbidos, Monsanto, and Guimarães?